Hi everyone, today we are listening to Story the House That Remembers. I am your host, Aiden. Walk along with me as I take you along with this thrilling journey of Emily and that house. Emily. Chen's sedan rattled along a rain-soaked country road, the wipers struggling against a storm that blurred the world into gray. The farmhouse loomed on the horizon, its sagging roof and peeling paint stark against the roiling sky, a silhouette that seemed to swallow light. She'd bought it sight unseen, a desperate escape from the city's clamor, her stalled writing, career, and the solitude that had become her only companion. The realtor's email had promised a fixer-upper with character, but as she parked, the house felt alive, its windows dark, unblinking, yet watching. Inside, the air was heavy with dust, and an iron tense, like blood left to rust. The floorboards groaned under her boots, each step echoing in the empty rooms, the sound swallowed by a deeper silence. In the kitchen, a warped table held a notebook, its leather cover worn, pulsing faintly, as if breathing. She opened it, finding blank pages, except for one word in jagged ink: stay. Her reflection in a cracked window smiled, but her lips stayed still, her eyes wide with unease. The walls sighed. A low, guttural sound, and a shadow flickered in the corner, gone when she turned. Upstairs, a locked door bore a carved spiral with 3 eyes, the same symbol as in the notebook. She touched it, and the wood pulsed, warm like flesh, whispering her name, Emily. Her heart pounded, but the notebook was in her hands now, though she hadn't picked it up. Ink dripped from her fingers, forming her name on the page, burning her skin. The house creaked, its windows blinking, as if waking from a long sleep. Its shadow stretching toward her. Emily lay on a sagging mattress, in the farmhouse's only furnished room, the slanted ceiling pressing down like a weight. The air was thick with the iron temps of rust or blood mingling with the damp smell of old wood. The notebook sat on the nightstand, its cover pulsing, pages whispering as they turned on their own. She'd tried to burn it in the fireplace, piling kindling and matches, but the flames died, the ink spreading across the pages, forming spirals that burned her fingers when she touched them. Outside, the storm raged, rain hammering the roof, but no sound penetrated the house, as if it devoured noise itself. She checked the locked door again, its spiral symbol glowing faintly, the 3 eyes seeming to blink, watching her. A mirror appeared in the hallway, on there moments ago, reflecting her face too pale, eyes too wide, smiling when she wasn't. The whisper came again, Emily, stay. She ran downstairs, but the front door was sealed, the wood warm, pulsing like a heartbeat under her palms. The notebook glowed, open to a new page. You are home. Ink crept up her arms, forming faint spirals that burned like embers, stinging. Her skin, she screamed, but the sound died, swallowed by the house's silence. A trapdoor yawned in the kitchen floor, its edges jagged, etched with her name in spiraling script. It beckoned, inviting her down into darkness. She backed away, clutching a rusty knife from the counter, determined to stay upstairs, but the walls creaked, the mirror reflecting a hallway that wasn't there, its floorboards carved with spirals, and eyes, all watching her. Emily woke to silence, the storm gone, the house still as a grave. The knife was missing, replaced by the notebook, open to a page. Look below. The trapdoor in the kitchen yawned wider, its darkness smelling of iron and rot, a sourceless breeze carrying whispers of her name. She descended the slick ladder, her hands trembling, the air growing colder, sharper, as if she were sinking into something alive. The crawl space was vast, impossibly large for the farmhouse's footprint, its walls soft, pulsing like flesh, covered in blinking eyes that followed her every step. Mirrors lined the tunnel, reflecting her childhood nights spent hiding from her parents' screams. Her city apartment, where silence was her refuge, every moment of solitude laid bare. At the tunnel's end, a chamber opened, its floor a mosaic of bones, sharp and gleaming, its walls carved with spirals and eyes. A figure stood in the center, cloaked in shadows, its face a cracked porcelain mask, ink bleeding from eyeless sockets. "Welcome," it said, its voice a chorus of whispers, echoing in her bones. "I'm Aaron. You're the new keeper." Emily's heart pounded. Keeper of what? The figure tilted its head, mask splitting further, ink dripping like tears. The silence, the hunger. The notebook glowed in her hands, commanding right. Ink dripped from her fingers, forming her name on the page, burning her skin. The mirrors pulsed, showing her face, eyeless, smiling cruelly. She ran, but the crawl space tightened, the eyes watching, the walls whispering. "Stay." The chamber vanished, and she woke in the kitchen. The trapdoor closed, the notebook in her, hands ink spreading to her chest, burning like fire. Emily stumbled outside, the farmhouse's shadow long and cold, its windows blinking like a predator's eyes. The air was damp, the grass slick under her boots, but the silence followed, heavier than the storm. A woman approached from the neighboring field, her face weathered, eyes sharp with fear. "You're the new owner," she said, voice low, almost a whisper. "I'm Mara. You shouldn't stay here." Emily's hands trembled, the ink on her arms faint but burning, forming spirals that pulsed with her heartbeat. "Why?" Mara pointed to the farmhouse, its silhouette looming. "It takes people. My brother, last year, vanished inside." She rolled up her sleeve, revealing a scar not ink, but a burn, a spiral with 3 eyes. "It marked me, too." Emily showed her the notebook, its pages pulsing, open to Mara's name in jagged ink. Mara paled, stepping back. "Burn it. Now." They piled wood in the yard, dousing the notebook with gasoline, but the flames died, the ink spreading, forming Emily's name beside Mara's. The ground shook, a trapdoor opening beneath Mara, pulling her into darkness, her scream cut short. Emily jumped after, landing in the crawl space, its walls soft, eyes watching. Mara's screams echoed, but she was gone, the mirrors showing her face, eyeless, smiling cruelly. The notebook glowed. "Bind her." Emily refused, slashing her palm with a rock, blood mixing with ink, dripping onto the floor. The crawl space shook, collapsing, and she woke in the field, alone, Mara gone. The farmhouse loomed, its door open, whispering her name, its shadow swallowing the light. Emily drove to the nearby town, its streets unnaturally quiet, the air heavy with the iron temps of the farmhouse. The townsfolk avoided her gaze, their eyes darting to her arms, where ink pulsed faintly, forming spirals that burned. In a diner, the waitress, a woman with tired eyes, whispered, "You're from the house." Emily nodded, showing the notebook, its cover pulsing like flesh. "What is it?" The waitress backed away, pointing to a newspaper clipping on the wall. "Local man vanishes in farmhouse, 1992. The name was Elias Carter, his face haunted, scars visible on his arms. Emily's hands shook, ink forming Elias's name on her skin, burning like embers. A mirror appeared behind the counter, reflecting her eyeless face, smiling cruelly, its mouth sewn shut with black thread. The diner's walls creaked, a low, guttural sound, and a trapdoor opened in the floor, its edges jagged, etched with spirals and eyes. She ran, but the town twisted, its streets looping back to the farmhouse, its windows blinking, its door open. The notebook glowed in her hands. "Find him." Ink dripped from her fingers, forming her name, burning her skin. The house's shadow followed, its whispers filling her mind. "Stay." She drove away, the road stretching endlessly, but it led back to the farmhouse, its silhouette waiting, its silence swallowing the town. Back in the farmhouse, Emily climbed to the attic, its air thick with dust and iron, the floorboards sagging under her weight. A trunk sat in the corner, its lock rusted, open to reveal a journal, its pages yellowed, dated 1823. Signed by Aaron Bell. I built this house to hold my grief, it read, the ink pulsing faintly. The watchers came, offering silence for my pain. I bound them, but they grew hungry, living in the walls. The final entry, I am their keeper. They wait for the next. Ink pulsed on Emily's chest, forming Aaron's name in spiraling patterns, burning her skin. The attic walls creaked, a mirror appearing, reflecting her eyeless face, smiling cruelly, its mouth sewn shut. A trapdoor opened in the floor, and she fell into the crawl space. Its walls soft, covered in blinking eyes, smelling of rot and iron. Erin stood there, her porcelain mask cracked, ink bleeding from eyeless sockets. "You're the new keeper," she said, her voice a chorus of whispers. Emily refused, stabbing the journal with a nail from the floor, ink spraying, burning her hands. The crawl space shook, collapsing, and she woke in the attic, the journal. Ash, the notebook in her hands, commanding right. Ink dripped from her fingers, forming her name, burning her skin. The house sighed, its windows blinking, its shadow swallowing the attic's light. Emily found a ritual in the notebook, scrawled in jagged ink. Ink, blood, mirror, name. Her hands trembled as she stood in the living room, the air heavy, the walls pulsing like a heartbeat. She smashed a mirror, shards cutting her hands, blood, mixing with ink, dripping onto the floorboards, forming spirals that burned. Aaron's voice slithered from the walls. "Name it." Emily shouted, "I don't know it." The room shook, a trapdoor opening, pulling her into a chamber of mirrors, each reflecting her screaming face, eyeless, smiling cruelly. The notebook glowed. "Speak the name," she whispered, "Aaron." The mirrors laughed, ink pouring from cracks, forming a spiral with 3 eyes, watching her. The chamber trembled, and she woke in the farmhouse, her arms burning, ink spreading to her shoulders, forming Aaron's name. The notebook reappeared, its pages blank but heavy, commanding, "Find the name." The house's shadow grew, its windows blinking, whispering her name. She ran outside, the field twisting, leading back to the farmhouse, its door open, inviting her inside. The air grew cold, the grass cutting her legs, the ink pulsing inside her, whispering, "Stay." Emily drove to the town's library, its towering shelves casting long shadows, the air thick with dust and the iron temps of the farmhouse. She searched for Aaron Bell, finding a single record, a 1823 obituary. Widow found dead in farmhouse, cause unknown. The librarian, a woman with gray eyes, stared at Emily's arms, where ink pulsed faintly. "You're marked," she said, backing away, her voice trembling. The computer flickered, showing Emily's face, eyeless, smiling cruelly, its mouth sewn shut. A trapdoor opened in the floor, its edges jagged, etched with spirals and eyes. She fell into a crawl space, its walls soft, covered in blinking eyes, smelling of rot. The notebook glowed in her hands. "Find Elias." She crawled forward, the air cold and sharp, the mirrors reflecting her life every lonely moment, every choice to be alone. At the tunnel's end, a chamber opened, Elias standing in the center, his scars glowing. A spiral with 3 eyes burned into his arm. "You're too late," he said, his voice hollow. "It took my wife." The mirrors showed her face, smiling. Cruelly, Emily stabbed the notebook with a bone shard from the floor, ink spraying, burning her hands. The chamber collapsed, and she woke in the library, Elias gone, the notebook commanding, "Hunt the name." The ink spread to her chest, burning, whispering her name. Emily emerged in a city alley, the town gone, the air heavy with the smell of rain and iron. The brick walls pulsed, her name scratched into the stone in jagged letters, ink dripping like blood. Elias stood at the alley's end, his coat tattered, scars glowing faintly. "Starve it," he said, his voice rough. "Stay with people." never be alone. He handed her a map not of the city, but of the house, its rooms twisting, trapdoors, endless. A mirror appeared, reflecting Elias, his face melting into ink. He screamed as it swallowed him. The sound cut short. The notebook glowed. "Speak the name," she whispered, "Aaron." The walls laughed, ink pouring from cracks, pooling at her feet, forming a spiral with 3 eyes. The alley stretched, its walls turning to wood, the house rebuilding around her. Emily ran, the notebook burning in her hands, commanding, "Find the name." The ink spread to her neck, forming spirals that burned, whispering her name. The city twisted, its streets looping back to the farmhouse, its door open, its shadow swallowing the light. She clutched the map, its lines twisting into a spiral, pointing to a chamber deep within the house's heart. Emily woke in a motel room, the air stale, the walls plain, but humming faintly, as if alive. The notebook lay on the bed, open to a page. Name it. Ink curled around her eyes, burning like embers, forming faint spirals on her face. She smashed the bathroom mirror, shards cutting her hands, blood mixing with ink, dripping onto the tiled floor. Aaron's voice slithered from the walls. "Say the name." Emily shouted, "I don't know it." The room shook, a trapdoor opening beneath her, its edges jagged, etched with spirals and eyes. She fell into a chamber of mirrors, each reflecting a fate's glare. Her friend from the city, now eyeless, smiling cruelly, her mouth sewn shut with black thread. "You brought me here," Claire said, her voice a hollow echo. Emily stabbed. The notebook with a mirror shard ink spraying, burning her skin. The chamber collapsed, and she woke in the motel, the ink pulsing on her face, whispering Varath. The notebook reappeared, its pages blank, except for a spiral with 3 eyes, commanding, "Speak." The walls creaked, the mirror reflecting the farmhouse's hallway, her name carved into the frame. The house's shadows swallowing the room. Emily stood in an unfinished room, its walls raw wood, the air thick with sawdust and iron. She whispered the walls groaned, splitting open, ink pouring from cracks, pooling into a figure formless, a mass of writhing shadows, with eyes blinking across its surface, like stars in a void. "You named me," it said, its voice a chorus of screams, shaking the room. The notebook burned in her hands. Voreth is free. Mirrors appeared, showing cities, houses, faces all marked with ink, all watching. Emily's voice trembled. "I didn't mean to." Voreth's eyes blinked in unison, and yet I am here. The room dissolved, and she stood on a city street, the buildings leaning in, their windows blinking like eyes. Her reflection in a storefront was wrong to many eyes, smiling too wide. The ink crept back, forming spirals on her arms, her chest, her throat, burning her skin. The notebook reappeared, its pages blank, except for one line, "You are the door." Emily's heart pounded, the city growing quiet, its shadows stretching like claws. She ran, but the street looped, leading back to a house sagging roof. Peeling paint, its door open, whispering her name, its shadow swallowing the sky. Emily wandered into a church, its air cool and quiet, the stained glass windows casting fractured light across the pews. The priest, frail and old, looked at her and frowned. "You're marked," he said, his voice trembling, echoing the librarian's warning. He pointed to her arms, where ink pulsed, forming spirals that burned. "What have you brought here?" Emily's voice shook. "Something called Vorath." The priest paled, leading her to a back room with a locked cabinet. Inside, a ledger listed names across centuries. Aaron Bell, 1823. Elias Carter, 1992. Emily Chun, now. "It's a curse," he said. "It feeds on solitude, builds houses to trap the lonely." Emily's hands trembled. "How do I stop it?" He shook his head. "You can't." refuse to be alone. She laughed bitterly. I've always been alone. The priest touched her hand, his eyes sad. Then you're its prey. The church door slammed shut, windows fogging, ink dripping from the ceiling, forming her name in spiraling patterns. Emily fled, the ledger burning in her mind, the ink spreading to her chest, whispering, Vorath. The church walls pulsed, becoming wood, the house rebuilding around her, its door open, inviting her back. Emily found a shelter in the city, its crowded room of cots and whispered conversations, drowning out the house's whispers. The noise, coughing, muttering, breathing was a shield against the silence. She stayed 3 days, the ink fading, mirrors showing only her tired face, no longer eyeless. But at night, she dreamed of the farmhouse, its trapdoors opening, Claire whispering, You left me. On the 4th day, a woman sat beside her, Leela, an artist with paint-stained hands and a warm smile. You look lost, Leela said, her voice kind. Emily hesitated. I am. Leela offered a couch in her apartment. No one should be alone. Emily followed, hoping Leela's presence would keep the house at bay. The apartment was small, cluttered with canvases, its brick walls free of wood, its mirrors clear. But, at night, scratching came from under the floor, a rhythmic skirt. Emily pressed her ear to the wood, the sound stopping. Her reflection in a mirror blinked too slowly, smiling cruelly. She tore up the floorboards, revealing a crawl space impossible in an apartment. A notebook lay inside, open to Lila's name, ink dripping like blood, forming a spiral with 3 eyes. Emily slammed the floorboard shut, waking Lila. What's wrong? Leela asked, rubbing her eyes. We need to leave, Emily said, grabbing her arm, her voice trembling. The door was sealed, the windows fogged, pulsing like flesh. The notebook glowed, bind the new, free the old. A mirror cracked Claire's voice whispering, You brought me here. Lila screamed, backing against the wall, her eyes wide. Emily grabbed a knife from the kitchen. I won't let it take you. The walls pulsed, ink dripping from the ceiling, forming Vorath's name in spiraling patterns. The floorboards split, revealing a tunnel, its walls soft, smelling of rot. Leela fell in, her scream echoing. Emily jumped after, landing in a crawl space, its walls covered in blinking eyes, watching her every move. Lila stood at the tunnel's end, her eyes black, hands dripping ink. You brought me back, she said, her voice a hollow chorus. The notebook burned in Emily's hands, commanding, Bind her. Emily slashed her palm, blood mixing with ink. I won't, she said, her voice breaking. The tunnel shook, mirrors appearing, reflecting Claire, Lila, Maral, screaming, eyeless. Emily stabbed the notebook, ink spraying, burning her skin. The tunnel collapsed, and she woke in the apartment, alone, Lila gone, the mirrors blank, the walls silent, but watching. Emily found Lila in an art gallery, its walls covered in paintings of houses, farmhouses, warehouses, apartments, all with eyes in their windows, watching her. Lila stood in the center, her hands clean, eyes clear. You found me, she said, smiling. Emily's voice shook. Are you real? Lila nodded. I got out. I don't know how. The ink on Emily's arms burned, forming spirals that pulsed with her heartbeat. She grabbed Leela's hand. We need to leave. The gallery walls pulsed, a mirror appearing, showing Claire, her eyes black, mouth sewn shut with red thread. The notebook materialized, bind the new. The floorboards split, pulling Leela into a tunnel, her scream echoing. Emily jumped after, landing in a crawl space, its walls soft, covered in blinking eyes, smelling of rot and iron. Lila stood at the end, her eyes black, hands dripping ink. You brought me back, she said, her voice a chorus. The notebook burned, commanding. Sacrifice. Emily clutched Leela's arm, pulling her back. I won't let it take you. The mirrors reflected their faces, twisted, eyeless, smiling cruelly. The walls laughed, ink dripping, forming Voreth's name. Emily slashed her palm, blood mixing with ink, and stabbed the notebook. The tunnel shook, collapsing. She woke in. The gallery, alone, the paintings blank, Lila gone. The walls whispering, build. Emily hitchhiked to a small town, the ink gone but pulsing inside, a faint hum in her veins. She found a diner, its walls plain, mirrors clear, the air smelling of coffee and grease, free of the farmhouse's iron temps. An old woman sat beside her, her eyes like fogged glass, her hands trembling as she handed Emily a yellowed letter. Aaron wrote this, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Before she became the house, the letter read, the watchers feed on silence. Speak their name, and they weaken. But beware, they take what you love. Emily's heart sank, thinking of Claire, Leela, everyone she'd touched. The diner walls creaked, a mirror appearing, showing her eyeless face, smiling cruelly, its mouth sewn shut. Voreth's voice whispered, you can't save them. The letter burned in her hands, ink dripping from the ceiling, forming her name in spiraling patterns. Emily ran, the diner becoming the farmhouse, its door open, its shadow, swallowing the street. She clutched the letter, its words searing into her mind, the ink pulsing on her skin, now reaching her face, forming spirals around her eyes, burning like fire. The notebook reappeared, its pages blank, commanding, write. Emily found Eliason, a bar, its air thick with cigarette smoke and the sour smell of spilled beer. He sat in a corner, his face haggard, scars glowing faintly, a spiral with 3 eyes, burned into his arm like a brand. You're still here, he said, his voice rough. A mistake. Emily demanded, tell me about Voreth. He flinched. It's hunger. Aaron bounded in 1823, but it grew stronger. Uses the lonely to spread. Her voice broke. How do I kill it? He laughed, bitter. You don't. Starve it. Stay with people. The bar walls pulsed, a trapdoor opening beneath Elias, pulling him into darkness, his scream cut short. Emily jumped after, landing in a chamber of bones, its walls lined with mirrors, each reflecting a face Claire, Leela, Mara, all screaming, silently. The notebook glowed. Hunt the name, she whispered. Voreth. The mirrors shattered, ink pouring from the walls, forming a thicker eyeless, writhing shadows, eyes blinking across its surface. You cannot unbind me, it said, its voice a chorus. Emily stabbed the notebook with a bone shard, ink spraying, burning her hands. The chamber collapsed, and she woke in the bar, alone, Elias gone. The ink covered her face, forming spirals, whispering her name. Emily stood in the empty bar, the air heavy with smoke and iron, the walls pulsing like a heartbeat. A mirror materialized on the counter, its surface fogged, reflecting her eyeless face. Smiling cruelly, its mouth sewn shut, the notebook lay beside it, open to a page. Look within. Her reflection reached out, its fingers breaking through the glass like water, pulling her through. She landed in a hallway of mirrors, each showing a different life: her as a child, hiding from noise; her as a writer, seeking silence; her as a watcher, her mouth sewn shut. The notebook burned, become. She smashed a mirror, ink spraying, burning her skin. Voreth's voice echoed, "You are the house now." The hallway stretched, its walls wood, carved with spirals and eyes. Emily refused, stabbing the notebook, ink flooding the hallway, burning her arms. The mirrors collapsed, and she woke in a motel, the ink pulsing inside, whispering Voreth. The mirror showed the farmhouse's hallway, her name carved into the frame. Emily stood frozen in the motel room, the air stale and heavy, the faint hum of the walls vibrating through her bones like a distant heartbeat. The mirror on the dresser fogged, its surface rippling like a dark pool, reflecting not her face but something else, her features twisted, eyeless, smiling too wide, ink dripping from empty sockets in thin, black rivulets that seemed to pulse with intent. The notebook lay open beside it, its leather cover pulsing faintly, as if alive. The page scrawled with a single command, "Look within." Her hands trembled, the ink on her arms burning, spreading to her throat, forming spirals that seared her skin, like embers, each pulse whispering Vorath, in a voice that wasn't hers. She backed away, her boots scuffing the worn carpet, but the mirror's reflection reached out, its fingers cold and slick, breaking through the glass like water, wrapping around her wrist with a grip that burned colder than ice. She screamed, but the sound died in the motel's silence, swallowed by the walls that creaked with a low, guttural moan, as if the room itself were waking. The pull was relentless, dragging her through the mirror into a chamber of endless mirrors, each one reflecting a different version of her as a child, hiding in a closet from her parents' shouts, the silence her only friend. Her, as a writer, hunched over a laptop in a city apartment, craving solitude. Her as a watcher, her mouth sewn shut with black thread, ink dripping from her hands, pooling on the floor. The air was thick with the iron tank of blood and rot. The walls wood, despite the motel's concrete, carved with spirals and three-eyed symbols that blinked, watching her every move. Vorath's voice echoed, not from the mirrors, but from inside her, a chorus of screams that shook her bones. "You are the door." The notebook burned in her hands, its pages commanding, "Become." She refused, smashing the nearest mirror with her fist, the shards cutting her knuckles, blood mixing with ink, dripping onto the floor in spiraling patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat. The chamber shook, mirrors cracking, ink pouring from the walls, burning her skin like acid. She stumbled through the reflections, each one showing Claire, her friend from the city. Now eyeless, her mouth sewn shut, her voice a hollow whisper. "You brought me here." Emily's heart pounded, her mind racing with memories of Claire, her laughter, her late-night coffee runs, her promise to visit Emily's new home. The farmhouse had taken her, swallowed her in its walls, and now she was here, trapped in the mirrors, her face twisted into something cruel. "I didn't mean to," Emily whispered, tears streaming down her face. But Claire's reflection only smiled wider, ink dripping from her sockets, forming Emily's name on the glass. The notebook glowed, its pages flipping on their own, showing Claire's name, then Leela's, then Mara's, each one written in Emily's handwriting, though she hadn't touched a pen. She clutched the notebook, its cover hot, pulsing like flesh, and slashed her palm with a mirror shard, blood mixing with ink, dripping onto the floor. "I won't let you take them," she said, her voice breaking. She stabbed the notebook, the shard sinking into its pages, ink spraying like a wound, burning her hands, her face, her eyes. The chamber trembled, mirrors collapsing into shadows, the walls groaning as if in pain. Claire's reflection screamed, a sound that tore through Emily's mind, and the chamber dissolved. Leaving her gasping on the motel floor, she woke, the room silent, the mirror blank, but the notebook lay open, its pages blank except for a spiral with 3 eyes, watching her. Her arms were clean, but the ink pulsed inside, a faint hum in her veins, whispering, "Vorath." The motel walls creaked, the air growing heavy, the iron temps returning. She stood, her legs unsteady, and checked the door locked from the outside. The handle warm, pulsing like the farmhouse's wood. The mirror fogged again, showing not her reflection, but the farmhouse's hallway, its walls carved with her name in spiraling script, the door at the end open, inviting her back. She backed away, clutching the notebook, its weight heavy in her hands, ink dripping from her fingers, forming her name on the carpet. The walls sighed, a low guttural sound, and a trapdoor opened in the floor, its edges jagged, etched with spirals and eyes, smelling of rot and iron. She stepped back, refusing to fall, but the room twisted, the walls becoming wood, the motel dissolving into the farmhouse, its shadows swallowing the light. Emily's breath caught, her heart pounding as she realized the house was no longer a place, it was inside her. Its hunger growing, its whispers filling her mind. You are the door. She ran to the window, but it showed not the motel parking lot but a field, the farmhouse looming on the horizon, its windows blinking like a predator's eyes. The notebook burned in her hands, its pages flipping to a new command, return. She threw it across the room, but it reappeared in her pocket, heavier, warmer, its cover pulsing like a heartbeat. The ink on her throat burned, spreading to her face, forming spirals around her eyes, each pulse a whisper of Voreth's name. She clutched her head, trying to drown out the sound, but the walls laughed, a low, rumbling chuckle that shook the floor. A memory surfaced, Claire's voice, months ago, saying, "You need to get out of the city, Em. Find somewhere quiet." The irony burned, the silence she'd sought now a trap, the house feeding on her loneliness. She grabbed a chair, smashing the mirror, but it reappeared, whole, reflecting her eyeless face, smiling cruelly. The notebook glowed, its pages mapping, a new hallway, endless, its walls carved with her name, its door open, waiting. Emily refused to give in, her hands shaking as she tore pages from the notebook, scattering them on the floor. The ink bled, forming words. Claire, Lila, Mara, each name was a weight, a reminder of those she'd lost, those the house had taken. She whispered their names, hoping to weaken Voreth, as the letter from Section 16 had warned. Speak their name, and they weaken. But the mirrors laughed, ink pouring from their cracks, pooling at her feet, burning her skin. She stumbled back, the trapdoor yawning wider, its darkness calling. She grabbed a lamp, smashing it against the wall, hoping to break the house's hold. But the wood pulsed, absorbing the blow, the spirals glowing brighter. The air grew colder, the iron temps stronger, and the notebook reappeared, its pages blank, except for one line, "You cannot leave." Emily's vision blurred, the ink pulsing inside her, spreading to her chest, her heart whispering Voreth. She sank to her knees, the room spinning, the farmhouse's hallway forming around her, its door open, its shadow swallowing her. But she refused to enter, clutching the notebook, determined to fight, to find a way to save Claire, to save herself, to break the house's cycle. Emily stood in the farmhouse's hallway, its walls wood, carved with spirals, and eyes that blinked, watching her every move. The air was thick, the iron temps of blood and rot choking her lungs, the silence so heavy it pressed against her skin. Mirrors lined the walls, each one reflecting a different city, skyscrapers, apartments, warehouses, all marked with ink, their windows blinking like eyes, all watching her. The notebook glowed in her hands, open to a page with 2 words, "Stay, leave." Her voice trembled as she whispered, "I won't stay." Voreth's voice echoed, not from the mirrors, but from her own skin, her bones, her blood. "You carry me." The mirrors pulsed, showing faces: Claire, Lila, Mara, Eliasol, Ilas, their mouths sewn shut, their hands dripping ink. Emily's heart pounded, her mind racing with memories of each one. Claire's laughter, Lila's warmth, Mara's warning, Ilias's scars. She clutched the notebook, its cover pulsing like flesh, and stabbed it with a mirror shard, ink spraying, burning her hands, her face, her eyes. The hallway shook, mirrors cracking, the walls groaning as if in pain, the spirals glowing brighter, their eyes blinking faster. The air grew colder, the floorboards splitting, revealing a trapdoor, its edges jagged, etched with her name in spiraling script. She stepped back, refusing to fall, but the hallway stretched endlessly, the door at its end open, inviting her deeper into the house. Voreth's voice grew louder, a chorus of screams. "You are the door." Emily's legs trembled, the ink pulsing inside her, spreading to her throat, forming spirals that burned like fire. She remembered Ilias's words from section 17. Starve it. Stay with people. But she was alone. The house's silence swallowing her voice, her resistance. The mirrors showed her past every moment she'd chosen solitude, every night. She'd pushed people away, seeking the quiet that now trapped her. She screamed, "I won't be your keeper." The walls laughed, ink pouring from cracks, pooling at her feet, burning her skin. She slashed her palm with the shard, blood mixing with ink, dripping onto the floor, forming a spiral with 3 eyes, watching her. The notebook burned hotter, its pages flipping to a new command. Choose. Emily's vision blurred, the ink inside, her whispering Voreth. She stumbled toward the door, but it led not to the outside, but to another hallway. Its walls pulsing, eyes blinking, her name carved deeper into the wood. She turned back, but the hallway behind her was gone, replaced by a chamber of mirrors, each one reflecting a different lifer as a child. Her as a writer, her as a watcher, her mouth sewn shut, ink dripping from her hands. Claire appeared. In one, her eyes black, her voice a hollow echo. "You brought me here." Lila appeared in another, her hands dripping ink, her smile cruel. Mara's voice whispered from a third. "You didn't listen." Emily's heart sank, the weight of their loss crushing her. She stabbed the notebook again, ink spraying, the chamber shaking, mirrors collapsing into shadows. The walls groaned, the trapdoor yawning wider, its darkness calling, but she refused to fall. Clutching the shard, her blood mixing with ink, her voice breaking as she shouted. The chamber dissolved, and she woke in a field. The farmhouse looming on the horizon, its windows blinking like a predator's eyes, its shadow stretching toward her. Her arms were clean, but the ink pulsed inside, a faint hum in her veins, whispering her name. The notebook lay in the grass, its pages blank, except for a spiral with 3 eyes, watching her. She stood, her legs unsteady, the field stretching endlessly, the house following her every step. The air grew heavy, the iron temps returning, and the notebook glowed, commanding, "Build." Emily's mind raced, the letter from section 16 echoing, "They take what you love." She thought of Sam, the kind man she'd meet later, his warm smile, a fleeting hope. She refused to let the house take him, took the field twisted, the grass cutting her legs, the farmhouse's shadow swallowing the sky. She ran, determined to find others, to break the cycle, but the notebook reappeared in her pocket, its weight heavy, ink dripping from her fingers, forming Voreth's name. The house sighed, its door open, inviting her back, but she turned away. Stepping toward a city on the horizon, its buildings pulsing, their windows watching her every move. Emily arrived in a new city, its streets alive with the noise of traffic, voices, and life a shield against the silence that fed the house. She was determined to starve Voreth, to follow Ilias's advice and stay with people, to drown out the whispers that haunted her. The ink was gone from her skin, but it pulsed inside, a faint hum in her veins, whispering Voreth. She rented a room in a crowded boarding house, its walls brick, its mirrors clear, the chatter of tenants, a constant hum that kept the house at bay. She met Sam, a kind man with warm brown eyes and a gentle laugh, who worked as a mechanic and lived downstairs. "You look like you're running from something," he said one evening, handing her a cup of coffee, his fingers brushing hers. Emily's throat tightened, the memory of Claire and Lila heavy in her chest. "Something old," she said, "something hungry." Sam didn't press, his smile steady, grounding her. He invited her to dinner with his family, their laughter filling the house, their photos on the walls a stark contrast to the farmhouse's empty rooms. *** for weeks, The boarding house was a refuge, its noise drowning the whispers, the mirrors showing only her tired face, no longer eyeless. She avoided being alone, joining Sam's family for meals, helping his sister with chores, laughing at his father's stories. But the ink returned, faint at first, forming spirals on her back, burning like embers under her skin. She hid them, wearing long sleeves, but the hum grew louder, the whispers stronger. Voreth, the city began to change, its buildings leaning in, their windows blinking like eyes in the dark, reflecting her eyeless face, smiling cruelly. Sam's house remained, warm, its brick walls free of wood, but at night, they creaked, a low, guttural sound, whispering her name. She checked the mirrors, the floorboards, the walls, finding nothing but the faint hum of the house, waiting. The notebook appeared under her pillow one night, its cover pulsing, its pages blank except for a spiral with 3 eyes. Ink dripped from her fingers, forming Sam's name, then Claire's, then Lila's, each one burning her skin. She hid it in a drawer, but it reappeared, heavier, warmer, its pages commanding, "Bind him, asterisk." Emily refused, her hands trembling as she sat with Sam, his laughter a shield against the house's hunger. But the city grew quieter, its shadows pooling like ink, the buildings pulsing with the farmhouse's rhythm. She dreamed of the crawl space, its walls soft, eyes watching, Claire's voice echoing, "You brought me here." She woke, sweating, the notebook open beside her, Sam's name pulsing in jagged ink. She checked his room, finding him asleep, his face peaceful, unaware of the danger. The walls creaked louder, the mirror in the hallway fogging, showing the farmhouse's hallway, her name carved into the frame. She ran to Sam, waking him. "We need to leave," she said, her voice shaking. He frowned, confused, but followed her to the street, where the buildings leaned closer, their windows blinking, the air heavy with the iron tang of the farmhouse. The notebook glowed in her pocket, commanding, "Bind the new." Emily clutched Sam's hand, determined to protect him, to keep him from the house's grasp. But the street twisted, looping back to a building that wasn't there before, skyscraper. Its windows eyes, its door open, inviting her inside. Sam's house was a haven of warmth, its brick walls filled with light, the laughter of his family echoing from the kitchen, where he cooked dinner, humming a tune that felt like a lifeline. Emily sat at the table, her hands trembling, the notebook hidden in her bag, its cover pulsing like flesh. She'd found it under her bed that morning, open to Sam's name in jagged ink, written in her handwriting, though she hadn't touched a pen. The ink on her back burned, spreading to her chest, forming spirals that pulsed with her heartbeat, whispering Voroth. At night, the walls creaked, a low, guttural sound, whispering her name in a voice that wasn't human. She checked the mirror in her room, its surface fogging, reflecting Claire, her eyes black, mouth sewn shut with red thread. "You brought me here," Claire whispered, her voice a chorus of screams, echoing in Emily's bones. She smashed the mirror, shards cutting her hands, blood mixing with ink, but it reappeared, whole, showing the farmhouse's hallway, her name carved into the frame. Sam knocked on her door, his voice soft, concerned. "You okay, Emily?" She hid the notebook under the bed, her hands shaking. "Fine," she lied, her voice breaking. The walls pulsed, ink dripping from the ceiling, forming Voreth's name in spiraling patterns that burned the air. A trapdoor opened in the floor, its edges jagged, the wood etched with spirals and eyes, smelling of rot and iron. Emily grabbed Sam's arm, pulling him back. "Don't look," she said, but the trapdoor yawned wider, its darkness calling. She fell, the air cold and sharp, landing in a crawl space, its walls soft, covered in blinking eyes that followed her every move. Sam's voice echoed, "Emily." She crawled forward, the notebook burning in her hands, its pages mapping a chamber deep within the house, its heart pulsing with ink. The mirrors reflected her face, eyeless, smiling cruelly, whispering her name. Claire appeared, her hands dripping ink, her voice a hollow echo. "You can't save him." Emily's heart sank, her mind racing with memories of Sam, his kindness, his steady presence, the way he made her feel less alone. She refused to let the house take him, slashing her palm with a shard from the floor, blood mixing with ink, dripping onto the soft walls. The crawlspace shook, the eyes blinking faster, the mirrors cracking. She stabbed the notebook, ink spraying, burning her skin like acid. The walls groaned, the trap door closing, but the mirrors showed Sam, standing in the chamber ahead, his eyes wide, unaware of the danger. She ran toward him, the crawlspace tightening, the air growing colder, the iron temps stronger. The notebook glowed. "Bind him," Emily shouted. "No," her voice echoing in the tunnel, but the walls laughed, ink pouring from cracks, pooling at her feet. She reached Sam, grabbing his hand, but his skin was cold, his eyes beginning to darken, ink creeping up his arms. "Emily, what's happening?" he asked, his voice trembling. She pulled him back, toward the trapdoor, but it was gone. The crawlspace stretching endlessly, the mirrors reflecting their faces, hers eyeless, his stitched with ink. She stabbed the notebook again, the chamber shaking, mirrors collapsing, the walls groaning as if in pain. She woke in Sam's house, alone, the walls silent, but watching, the mirror blank, the notebook ash at her feet. Emily woke in Sam's house. The air heavy, the walls now wood, carved with spirals and eyes, pulsing, like a heartbeat. Sam was gone, his bed empty, the photos on the walls showing her face. Eyeless, smiling cruelly, ink dripping from its sockets. The notebook lay at her feet, ash one moment, whole the next, its pages open to Sam's name, pulsing in jagged ink. The ink inside her burned, spreading to her throat, whispering wrath. She ran to the living room, the mirror fogging, reflecting a chamber of bones, its floor a mosaic of sharp, gleaming shards, its walls lined with mirrors. Sam stood in the center, his body stitched with ink, eyes black as voids, no longer the warm man who'd offered her a home. "You brought it," he said, his voice a hollow chorus, echoing in the chamber. The notebook glowed. "Bind him," Emily refused, slashing her palm with a bone shard from the floor, blood mixing with ink, dripping onto the mosaic, forming a spiral, with 3 eyes. "I won't," she said, her voice breaking, tears streaming down her face. The mirrors screamed, reflecting Claire, Leela, Maral, eyeless, their mouths sewn shut, their hands dripping ink. She stabbed the notebook, ink spraying, burning her skin like acid. The chamber shook, bones rattling, mirrors collapsing into shadows. Sam's form dissolved, his voice fading. "You can't save us all." Emily's heart sank, the weight of his loss crushing her. She remembered his laughter, his kindness, the way he'd made her feel safe, now gone, swallowed by the house. The walls groaned, a trapdoor opening beneath her, its edges jagged, etched with her name. She refused to fall, clutching the bone shard, her blood mixing with ink, dripping onto the floor. The notebook burned hotter, commanding build. She tore its pages, scattering them, but they reappeared, whole, the ink pulsing inside her, whispering Voreth. The chamber dissolved, and she woke in Sam's house, the walls silent, but watching. The mirror blank, the notebook ash again. She ran outside, the city pulsing, its buildings leaning in, their windows blinking like eyes, reflecting her eyeless face, smiling cruelly. The air was thick with the iron temps, the streets looping back to the farmhouse, its door open, its shadow swallowing the light. Emily's legs trembled, her hands shaking as she clutched the notebook, its weight heavy, ink dripping from her fingers, forming Voreth's name. She refused to enter, turning away, but the city twisted, leading to a skyscraper. Its windows eyes, its door open, inviting her inside. The notebook glowed, mapping a chamber deep within, its heart pulsing with ink, waiting for her. She remembered Ilias's words, starve it. She needed others, people to drown the silence, to break the house's hold. But Sam was gone, and the ink burned hotter, spreading to her chest, her heart whispering, "You are the door." Emily sank to her knees, the skyscraper looming, its shadow swallowing her. But she refused to give in, determined to find others, to fight, to save those she could. Emily stood in the city, its streets unnaturally quiet, the buildings pulsing, like living things, their windows blinking like eyes in the dark, reflecting her eyeless face, smiling cruelly. The ink covered her body, forming Vorith's name in spiraling patterns that burned with every step, every breath, searing her skin like fire. She ran, her boots pounding the pavement, but the streets looped, leading to a church, its doors open, the air cold and heavy. Inside, the pews were covered in ink, the priest gone, his Bible open to a page with her name scrawled in blood, the letters pulsing like a heartbeat. The notebook reappeared in her hands, its pages showing a skyscraper, its windows eyes, watching her from every angle. She was building it, her every step spreading the pattern, the house manifesting in every corner of the city apartments, warehouses, offices, all whispering her name in a low, guttural hum. The air grew thicker, the shadows pooling like ink at her feet, forming spirals that burned her skin. She ran, the notebook burning in her hands, its pages mapping new houses, each one a trap, each one a piece of the pattern. The city trembled, a trap door opening in the street, its edges jagged, the wood etched with spirals and eyes, smelling of rot and iron. She stepped back, refusing to fall, but the buildings leaned closer, their windows reflecting her eyeless face, whispering, "Build." Emily threw the notebook into the street, but it reappeared in her pocket, ink dripping from her fingers, forming Vorith's name. The house sighed, its shadow swallowing the city, its whispers filling her mind. "You are the door." She stumbled into an alley, its walls pulsing, her name scratched into the brick, ink dripping like blood. A mirror appeared, showing Claire, Lila, some all eyeless, their mouths sewn shut, their voices a chorus. "You brought us here." Anna's eyes were wide, her scars burning brighter. "We're running out of time," she said, her voice trembling. The notebook reappeared, its pages blank, except for a spiral with 3 eyes, watching them. The library walls pulsed, a mirror, showing the skyscraper's hallway, Emily's name carved into the frame. She clutched Anna's hand, determined to finish the ritual, to trap Vorith, to save those she could. The air grew colder, the iron temps stronger, the whispers louder. Vorith. They ran, the library dissolving, the skyscraper looming, its windows blinking, its door open, inviting them inside. Emily's heart pounded, the ink pulsing inside her, spreading to her face, whispering her name. She refused to give in, her mind racing with Ilias's words. Starve it. She needed more people, more voices, to drown the silence. But the house followed, its shadow swallowing the city, its heart waiting. Emily and Anna fled to a warehouse, its steel walls pulsing like wood, its windows eyes, watching them from every angle. The air was thick with the iron temps, the floor cold and slick, the mirrors reflecting their eyeless faces, smiling cruelly. The notebook glowed, mapping a chamber deep within the house, its heart pulsing with ink, faces trapped with ink. Lila, Sam, Elias, may their eyes black, their mouths sewn shut. Vorith's voice echoed, "Feed it, or be fed." Emily's heart pounded, her hands trembling as she clutched a knife, her blood mixing with ink, dripping onto the floor. Anna lit a candle, its flame blue, burning the ink, the light pushing back the shadows. The heart pulsed faster, its veins throbbing, the faces screaming silently, their voices a chorus. "You brought us here." Emily slashed her palm, blood mixing with ink, and stabbed the heart, ink spraying, burning her skin like acid. The warehouse shook, mirrors shattering, the walls groaning as if in pain. Anna's scars glowed, the ink retreating from her skin, but the notebook reappeared, showing Leela, her eyes black, her hands dripping ink. "You brought me back," Leela said, her voice a hollow echo. Emily refused to bind her, slashing her palm again, blood mixing with ink, dripping onto the floor. The heart screamed, a sound that tore through Emily's mind, the mirrors collapsing into shadows. The warehouse trembled, its walls splitting, ink pouring from cracks, burning their skin. Emily pulled Anna back, the trapdoor closing, the heart dissolving, but the mirrors showed Sam, his eyes black, his voice fading. "You couldn't save me." Emily's heart sank, her legs trembling as she stumbled through the warehouse, the notebook burning in her hands, commanding, "Build." She tore its pages, scattering them, but they reappeared, whole, the ink pulsing inside her, whispering, "Vorath." The warehouse collapsed, and they woke in a field, the farmhouse looming, its windows blinking, its shadows swallowing the sky. Emily clutched Anna's hand, her voice breaking. "We're not done," she said. "We can still trap it." Anna nodded, her scars fading, but the notebook reappeared, its pages blank except for a spiral with 3 eyes watching them. The air grew colder, the iron temp stronger, the whispers louder. "You are the door." Emily refused to give in, her mind racing with the ritual from Section 27. Blood, fire, name, unity. She needed more people, more voices, to finish what they'd started, to trap Vorath forever. The field stretched endlessly, the farmhouse following, its door open, inviting them back. Emily's heart pounded, the ink pulsing inside her, spreading to her chest, whispering her name. She ran, Anna beside her, the skyscraper looming on the horizon, its windows blinking, its heart waiting, its shadow swallowing them. Emily and Anna returned to the skyscraper, its walls wood, despite its steel frame, its mirrors reflecting their eyeless faces, smiling cruelly, ink dripping from their sockets. The air was thick with the iron temps, the floor cold and slick, the notebook glowing in Emily's hands, showing a final ritual. Sacrifice the self, trap the name. Emily knew the cost her life, her identity, to trap Vorath forever. Anna protested, her scars burning, her voice trembling. There has to be another way. But Emily was resolute, her heart heavy with the loss of Claire, Lila, Sam, and May. They descended to the skyscraper's basement, its walls pulsing, eyes blinking, the air cold and sharp. They drew a circle with their blood, lighting candles that burned blue, their flames pushing back the shadows. Emily whispered Vorath. The mirrors pulsed, Erin appearing, her porcelain mask cracked, ink bleeding from her sockets, her dress fraying. "You cannot win," she said, her voice merging with Vorath's, a scream that shook the world. Emily slashed her arm, blood mixing with ink, dripping onto the notebook. She lit a match, setting it ablaze, the flames consuming the pages, the inker scars. The skyscraper screamed, mirrors shattering, walls collapsing, ink pouring from cracks, burning her skin. Erin's mask split, revealing a void, eyes blinking across it like stars. "You carry me," Vorath's voice said, fading. As the flames grew, Emily's vision blurred, her body weakening, the ink burning away inside her, its whispers fading. Anna pulled her from the rubble, the skyscraper gone, the city silent, the mirrors blank. The notebook was ash, the house's whispers fading, the air free of the iron tents. Emily collapsed, her scars gone, her breath shallow, the ink no longer. Pulsing inside her, Anna's voice was soft, trembling. "You did it, Emily." The city was still, the buildings no longer pulsing. their windows clear. Emily's heart slowed, her mind drifting. The weight of the house lifted, its pattern broken. Voreth's hunger starved. Asterisk. Emily woke in a hospital. The room sterile, the air clean, free of the iron temps that had haunted her. Anna sat beside her scars gone, her eyes clear, a faint smile on her lips. "It's over," she said, her voice soft but steady. The mirrors reflected only Emily's tired face, no longer eyeless, no longer smiling cruelly. The notebook was gone, the ink silent, the hum in her veins faded. Her arms were clean, her skin unmarred, but she felt a faint echo, a whisper of something distant, like a memory she couldn't place. The doctors said she'd collapsed from exhaustion, but Anna knew the truth, her hand squeezing Emily's, grounding her. "You broke it," Anna said. "You starved it." Emily nodded, her throat tight, the weight of Claire, Lila, Sam, and May heavy in her chest. She'd lost them, but she'd saved Anna, saved herself, saved the world from the house's hunger. She left the hospital, moving to a small town, surrounding herself with people, neighbors, friends, strangers, whose voices filled the silence she'd once craved. The farmhouse was a memory, its windows no longer blinking, its door closed forever. She joined a community center, their laughter a shield, their stories drowning out the past. Years passed, the ink never returning, the mirrors staying clear. But one night, in her new home, she found a notebook under her bed, its pages blank, a pen beside it, dripping ink. She didn't touch it, carrying it to the fireplace, the flames burning blue as the ink hissed and died. The walls stayed silent, the mirrors clear, the house gone. Emily lived, not alone, but surrounded, her silence filled with life. The notebook never reappeared, the ink stayed gone, and the farmhouse faded into legend, its pattern broken. Voreth's hunger starved forever. Asterisk. Years later, Emily lived quietly in her small town. The farmhouse a distant memory, its shadow no longer following her. The community center was her refuge, its chatter and laughter a constant shield against the silence she'd once sought. The mirrors in her home stayed clear, reflecting only her face, no longer twisted or eyeless. But one night, as she sat by her window, watching the stars, she felt a faint hum, like an echo in her veins, too soft to be sure. She checked under her bed, half expecting the notebook, but found nothing. Her hands were clean, no ink, no spirals. Still, the hum lingered, a whisper of something old, something hungry. She shook it off, joining her neighbors for a bonfire, their voices drowning the echo, their warmth grounding her. The next day, she found a notebook in her mailbox, its cover plain, its pages blank, a pen beside it, dripping ink. Her heart raced, but she didn't hesitate, carrying it to the community center's fire pit, the flames burning blue as the ink hissed and died. The hum faded, the mirrors stayed clear, the walls silent. She wrote her story, a warning to others, sharing it with her community, their voices amplifying her own. The farmhouse remained a legend, its door closed, its windows still. The notebook never returned, the ink stayed gone, and Emily lived, surrounded by life, the echo a fleeting memory. The house's hunger-starved. Asterisk. Emily's life in the town was full, her days spent with neighbors, her nights filled with stories and laughter. The community center became her anchor, its walls free of wood, its mirrors clear, reflecting only the faces of those she'd grown to love. The faint hum from Section 31 never returned, the ink a distant memory, the notebook ash in her mind. She wrote her story in a journal, not the house's notebook, but her own, its pages clean, its words hers. She shared it with the town, a tale of the farmhouse, of Voreth, of the silence that consumed. The townsfolk listened, their eyes wide, their voices a shield against the past. "You broke it," an old man said, his hand on her shoulder. "You kept us safe. One evening, a child at the center drew a spiral with 3 eyes, innocent, on a scrap of paper. Emily's heart skipped, but the drawing stayed flat. No ink, no pulse. She burned it in the fire pit, the flames natural, no blue, no hissing. The mirrors stayed clear, the walls silent, the house gone. Emily's story spread, a warning, a legacy, ensuring the farmhouse remained a tale, its shadow banished. She lived, not alone, but surrounded, her silence filled with the voices of others. The ink gone, the notebook ash, Vorith's hunger-starved, forever. Emily found a letter slipped under her door, its paper yellowed, its handwriting familiar Marat's, though she'd been gone since Section 4. "You broke it," it read. "Thank you." The letter crumbled to ash in her hands, but no ink dripped, no spirals formed. Her skin stayed clean, the mirrors clear, the hum gone. She joined her community for a festival, their music and laughter drowning any echo of the house. The farmhouse was a story now, told to scared children, its door closed, its windows still. Emily's role as its keeper was over, her life reclaimed from the silence she'd once craved. She visited the field where the farmhouse once stood, now overgrown with wildflowers, no trace of its sagging roof or blinking windows. The air was clean, free of iron or rot, the ground firm, no trapdoors. She left a flower, a tribute to Claire, Lila, Sam, Mara, Elias, and May. Their names a weight she carried, but no longer feared. The mirrors in her home stayed clear, the walls silent, the notebook gone. Emily lived, surrounded by voices, her silence filled with life, the house's hunger starved, its pattern broken forever. One night, a mirror appeared in Emily's bedroom, month before, its surface clear, reflecting her face tired older, but hers, not eyeless, not smiling cruelly. Her heart raced, but she touched the glass, finding it cold, lifeless, no ink, no spirals. She smashed it, the shards clean, no blood, no whispers. The house didn't return, its silence broken, its shadow gone. She slept, the community center's voices echoing in her dreams, a shield against the past. The notebook never reappeared, the ink stayed gone, the farmhouse, a fading legend. Its door closed forever. Emily woke to sunlight, her home warm, filled with the sounds of her neighbors outside. She joined them, their laughter grounding her, their stories drowning any echo of the house. The mirror's frame was empty, the shards gone, the walls silent. She lived, not alone, but surrounded, her silence filled with life. Vorith's hunger starved, the house's pattern broken forever. Emily stood in her garden, the town alive around her, its voices a constant hum, a shield against the silence she'd once sought. The farmhouse was a story, its sagging roof and blinking windows a tale told to scare, its door closed forever. She felt no hum, no ink, no whispers. The mirrors in her home stayed clear, reflecting only her face, no longer twisted, no longer cruel. She joined her neighbors for a meal, their laughter filling her heart, their warmth grounding her. The notebook never returned, the ink gone, the house's shadow banished. She wrote a final page in her journal, not the house's notebook, but her own. Its words a testament to her survival, a warning to others. The house feeds on silence. Stay with people. Speak. The town embraced her, their voices drowning the past, their lives weaving with hers. The farmhouse faded into legend, its hunger starved, its pattern broken. Emily lived free, her silence filled with life. The house gone forever. Emily sat in a diner, its flickering fluorescent lights casting jagged shadows across the cracked linoleum floor. The air was thick with burnt coffee and grease, but the iron temps of the farmhouse lingered beneath, a scent that clung to her like a second skin. Her hands trembled as she clutched a yellowed letter from an old woman with fogged glass eyes, who'd vanished after handing it to her. The letter, penned by Aaron Bell in 1823, crumbled at the edges, its ink pulsing faintly. The watchers feed on silence. Speak their name, and they weaken. But beware, they take what you love. Emily's heart sank, her mind flashing to Claire, lost in the farmhouse's walls, Lila, swallowed by the apartment's tunnel, and Sam, whose warm smile she feared she'd never see again. The ink on her body was gone, but she felt it coiling inside, wrapping around her heart like a vine, whispering in her veins. The diner's walls creaked, a low, guttural sound, and a mirror materialized on the far wall, its surface fogged, reflecting an eyeless face, smiling cruelly, its mouth sewn shut with black thread. Voreth's voice slithered through the air, not from the mirror but from the walls, the floor, the ceiling. You can't save them. The other patrons continued their conversations, oblivious, their voices hollow, echoing like whispers in a tunnel. Emily stood, the letter burning in her hands, ink dripping from its edges, forming her name on the table in spiraling patterns. She ran, the diner's door swinging open, but it led to a dark hallway, its walls wood, carved with spirals and eyes. The farmhouse loomed beyond, its windows blinking like a predator's gaze. The letter turned to ash, its words seared into her mind. They take what you love. The ink pulsed inside, spreading to her face, forming faint spirals around her eyes, burning like embers. The notebook, which had appeared in her pocket, felt heavy, its pages blank but dripping ink, forming Voreth's name. The house sighed, its door open, inviting her back. She stepped away, determined to find Leela, to save Sam, to break the cycle. But the street twisted, looping back to the farmhouse, its shadow swallowing the town. Emily found Elias in a dimly lit bar, the air thick with cigarette smoke and the sour stench of spilled beer. He sat in a corner booth, his face haggard, scars glowing faintly under the neon light. A spiral with 3 eyes burned into his arm like a brand. "You're still here," he said, his voice rough, eyes hollow with decades of running. "Eh? Mistake?" Emily slid into the booth, her hands trembling, the notebook heavy in her pocket, its cover pulsing like flesh. "Tell me about Voreth," she demanded, her voice cracking. Elias flinched, his fingers tightening around the chipped glass. "It's not a name, it's hunger." Aaron bound it in 1823, thinking she could control it, but it grew stronger, feeding on the lonely, using them to spread its pattern. Emily leaned forward, the ink pulsing inside her, whispering in her veins, forming names: Claire, Lila, Sam. "How do I kill it?" Elias laughed, a bitter sound that echoed like the house's creak. "You don't. You starve it. Stay with people. Never be quiet." The bar's walls pulsed, the jukebox flickering, spitting static that formed her name in a low, guttural hum. A trapdoor opened beneath Elias, and he screamed, falling into darkness, his glass shattering on the floor. Emily jumped after, landing in a chamber of bones, its walls lined with mirrors, each reflecting a face: Claire, Lila, Mara, all screaming silently, their mouths sewn shut. The notebook glowed in her hands, its pages commanding, "Hunt the name." She whispered Voreth. The mirrors shattered, ink pouring from the walls, forming a figure eyeless, a mass of writhing shadows, eyes blinking across its surface like stars in a void. "You cannot unbind me," it said, its voice a chorus of screams, shaking the chamber. Emily stabbed the notebook with a bone shard from the floor, ink spraying, burning her hands like acid. The chamber shook, bones rattling, mirrors collapsing into shadows. She woke in the bar, alone, Elias gone. The ink covered her face, forming spirals that burned, whispering her name. The walls creaked, a mirror appearing, showing her eyeless reflection. Smiling cruelly, Emily stood in the empty bar, the air heavy with smoke and iron, the walls pulsing like a heartbeat. A mirror materialized on the counter, its surface fogged, reflecting her eyeless face, smiling cruelly, its mouth sewn shut with black thread. The notebook lay beside it, open to a page. Look within. Her reflection reached out, its fingers breaking through the glass like water, cold and slick, pulling her through. She landed in a hallway of mirrors, each showing a different life her as a child. Hiding from her parents' fights in a closet filled with silence. Her as a writer, seeking solitude in a city that never slept. Her as a watcher, her mouth sewn shut, ink dripping from her hands. The notebook burned in her grip, its pages commanding. Become. She smashed a mirror, ink spraying, burning her skin like acid. Voreth's voice echoed, not from the mirrors, but from inside her. You are the house now. The hallway stretched, endlessly, its walls wood, carved with spirals and eyes, her name etched in every surface, pulsing with ink. She refused, stabbing the notebook again, ink flooding the hallway, burning her arms, her face. The mirrors screamed, collapsing into shadows, and she woke in a motel room, the air stale. The walls plain but humming faintly. Her arms were clean, but the ink pulsed inside, whispering Voreth. The notebook reappeared on the bed, its pages blank except for a spiral with 3 eyes, watching her. The motel's mirror fogged, showing the farmhouse's hallway, her name carved into the frame. She ran, but the hallway followed, the house rebuilding around her, its door open, its shadow swallowing the light. The air grew cold, the walls creaking, and a trapdoor yawned beneath her, its edges jagged, etched with her name. Emily stood in the skyscraper, its steel frame cloaked in wood, its walls carved with spirals and eyes, pulsing like a heartbeat. The mirrors lining the halls reflected her eyeless face, smiling cruelly, ink dripping from its sockets, forming her name in spiraling patterns. The notebook glowed in her hands, open to a page. You are the house. Yaren appeared, her porcelain mask cracked, ink bleeding from her eyeless sockets, her dress woven from shadows and bone, fraying at the edges. You build it with every breath, she said, her voice a chorus of whispers, echoing in Emily's. Bones, her blood, her soul. The mirrors pulsed, showing cities, houses, faces, Claire, Lila, Sam, Elias, all marked, all watching, their mouths sewn shut. Emily stabbed the notebook with a mirror shard, ink spraying, burning her skin like fire. The skyscraper shook, its walls groaning, mirrors collapsing into shadows. Erin's mask split, revealing a void where her face should have been, eyes, blinking across it like stars. You cannot unbind me, she said, her voice merging with Voreth's, a scream that shook the world. Emily refused, slashing her palm, blood mixing with ink, dripping onto the floor, forming a spiral with 3 eyes. The notebook burned, its pages ash, but a new one appeared, its pages blank, ink dripping from her fingers. The skyscraper collapsed, and Emily woke in a field, the farmhouse looming, its windows blinking. Her arms were clean, but the ink pulsed, inside, whispering, build again. The notebook lay in the grass, its cover pulsing, inviting her to write, to spread the silence. She stood, the field stretching endlessly, the house's shadow swallowing the sky, its whispers filling her mind. Emily refused to touch the notebook, its pages pulsing in the grass, ink dripping into the earth, forming spirals that burned her feet. She ran, the field twisting, but the farmhouse followed, its windows blinking, its door open. The city loomed ahead, its skyscrapers now wood, their windows eyes, watching her. She found a shelter, crowded with people, their noise a shield against the silence. There, she met others marked like her. Anna, a nurse with ink on her hands. Javier, a teacher with scars like Elias's. And May, a student whose eyes held the same haunted look. You've seen it, Anna whispered, showing a spiral on her palm. Javier nodded, his voice low. It took my sister. May clutched a sketchbook. its pages filled with drawings of the farmhouse. "We're all carriers," she said. Emily shared Aaron's letter, its words chilling them. "They take what you love." The shelter's walls creaked, a mirror appearing, reflecting their eyeless faces, smiling. The notebook glowed in Emily's hands. "Bind them." She refused, throwing it into a corner, but it reappeared, ink dripping from her fingers. The group vowed to stay together, to starve the house by refusing silence. But at night, the walls pulsed, trapdoors opening, pulling Javier into darkness. Emily jumped after, landing in a chamber of mirrors, his screams echoing. The notebook commanded, "Bind anew." She stabbed it, ink spraying, the chamber collapsing. She woke in the shelter, Javier gone, the others trembling, their scars burning. Emily led Anna and May from the shelter, determined to fight the house together, to starve its hunger. They found a library, its air thick with dust and iron, its shelves holding journals of others who'd faced the house siren, Elias, countless names, all marked. A 19th century text described a ritual to trap Voreth. Blood, fire, name, unity. The group agreed to try, gathering candles, knives, and a mirror from the library's basement. They drew a circle on the floor, their blood mixing with ink, forming a spiral with 3 eyes. Emily whispered Voreth. The mirrors pulsed, reflecting their eyeless faces, smiling. The house fought back, its walls creaking, trapdoors opening, pulling May into darkness. Emily and Anna jumped after, landing in a chamber of bones, May's body stitched with ink, her eyes black. The notebook commanded, "Bind her." Emily refused, slashing her palm, blood mixing with ink, dripping onto the floor. She lit a candle, the flame burning blue, ink retreating. The chamber shook, mirrors shattering, May's form dissolving. They woke in the library, May gone, the ritual incomplete. Anna's eyes were wide, her scars burning. "We're running out of time," she said. The notebook reappeared, its pages blank, ink dripping from Emily's fingers, forming Voreth's name. The library's walls pulsed, whispering her name. Emily and Anna fled to a warehouse, its walls steel, but pulsing like wood, its windows eyes, watching them. The notebook glowed, mapping a chamber deep within the house, its heart pulsing with ink. They descended a trapdoor, the air cold and sharp. The crawl space lined with mirrors reflecting their eyeless faces, smiling cruelly. At the chamber's center, the wooden heart beat stronger, its veins throbbing with ink. Faces trapped within, Claire, Lila, Sam, Elias, May. Voreth's voice echoed, "Feed it, or be fed." Emily raised a knife, her blood mixing with ink, dripping onto the heart. Anna lit a candle, its flame blue, burning the ink. The heart screamed, mirrors shattering, ink flooding the chamber, burning their skin. Emily stabbed the heart, ink spraying, the chamber collapsing. They woke in the warehouse, Anna's scars fading, but the notebook reappeared, its pages blank, except for a spiral with 3 eyes. The warehouse walls pulsed, a mirror showing Leela, her eyes black, mouth sewn shut. "You brought me back," she said, her voice a chorus. Emily refused to bind her, slashing her palm again, blood mixing with ink. The warehouse shook, collapsing, and they woke in a field, the farmhouse looming, its windows blinking, whispering, "Build again." Emily and Anna returned to the city, the skyscraper now the house's heart, its windows, eyes, its walls, wood, pulsing with ink. The notebook glowed, showing a final ritual. Sacrifice the self. Trap the name. Emily knew the cost her life, her identity, to trap Voreth forever. Anna protested, her scars burning, but Emily was resolute. They gathered in the skyscraper's basement, drawing a circle with their blood, lighting candles that burned blue. Emily whispered Voreth. The mirrors pulsed, reflecting Aaron, her mask cracked, ink bleeding from her sockets. You cannot win, she said, her voice merging with Voreth's. Emily slashed her arm, blood mixing with ink, dripping onto the notebook. She lit a match, setting it ablaze, the flames consuming the pages, the ink, her scars. The skyscraper screamed, mirrors shattering, walls collapsing. Aaron's form dissolved, Voreth's voice fading. You carry me. Emily felt the ink inside her burn away, her vision blurring, her body weakening. Anna pulled her from the rubble, the skyscraper gone, the city silent. The notebook was ash, the mirrors blank, the house's whispers fading. Emily collapsed, her scars gone, her breath shallow, the ink no longer pulsing inside her dot. Emily woke, in a hospital, Anna at her side, the room sterile, the air free of iron and rot. Her scars were gone, her skin clean, the notebook nowhere to be found. The mirrors reflected only her tired face, no longer eyeless, no longer smiling cruelly. Anna whispered, "It's over." But Emily felt a faint hum, deep inside, like a distant echo. She left the city, moving to a small town, surrounding herself with people, refusing silence. Years passed, the house a memory, its whispers gone. But one night, in a new home, she found a notebook under her bed, its pages blank, a pen beside it, dripping ink. She didn't touch it, burning it in the fireplace. The flames blew, the ink hissing as it died. The walls stayed silent, the mirrors clear. She joined a community, their voices drowning out the past, their laughter a shield. The house didn't return, its pattern broken, Voreth's hunger starved. Emily lived, not alone, but surrounded, her silence filled with life. The notebook never reappeared, the ink never returned, and the farmhouse faded into legend, its door closed forever.